Hi, my name is Tom and I am a painter, and 10 years ago I did something slightly crazy. I took all the money I had and I hid it inside the public spaces of an internationally prominent free art gallery. I wanted to see just once what it would look like if everyone felt like walking into a building like that, because I've always thought that there is an enormous gap between many people and what artists like myself seem to be up to every day.
Yeah, people want to do it, but they just give up on it because they think, oh, well, there's no way that I'm ever going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that they just think that they can't.
So after this intervention, I began to dig a lot deeper into this gap, and I began to discover that it has more than a little to do with disappointment in high school art classes, and though we might say we have no attachment to art at all, a deep attachment to realistic drawing and painting.
Lots of detail, very nice colours, I like that.
Proper art.
This is art, and the first three I would say aren't.
That's not a photograph. That's quite amazing. If somebody painted that, that is epic.
That's been so well drawn and painted.
Then 8 years ago, I watched a movie called Tim's Vermeer, as many of us did, and saw a man called Tim Jenison using a device called the Comparator Mirror, which he'd invented or perhaps rediscovered, to unlock the working habits of Johannes Vermeer. So if you're not aware of Tim's research and you haven't seen the movie, it is absolutely fascinating, and I thoroughly advise you to go and check it out. But what I also saw in Tim's movie was a piece of hardware which I thought might allow me to prise the lid off the problems of realistic drawing and painting and observe what would happen if the skills that I use every day became as accessible as the skills needed to bake a cake or ride a bike.
It was like an empowerment, honestly. It really felt like, I can do this.
But it's the teaching strategy which sits on top of all of this that makes the real difference and unlocks understanding as well as technical skill. So today I'm going to be making a copy of this magical, beautiful, detailed painting with a complete beginner.
This isn't cheating, this is looking at the painting completely differently.
So you're going to see the creation of a realistic painting from the ground up in this video as never before. We're going to break those processes down. But more important than all of that, infinitely more significant, is the conversation that Wendy and I are able to have because painting has become a shared experience. In other words, we're going to get to watch Wendy's confidence transform from this...
It's all making me nervous. I'm out of my depth. I think you're mad.
...to this. Got it?
Yeah. Brush, please. Maybe I can, maybe I am.
Welcome to Painting Lab. So, to set the scene, and before we begin work with Wendy, time for a quick disclaimer. Really important before we do anything else to say that this is not about producing human photocopiers. Really, I want to dispel that old myth that if you can't draw, well, art's always going to be a little bit out of reach for you. So now let's speak to Wendy and get this whole show on the road.
It's magic and it's untouchable. I would give you a 2 out of 10 if you were asking me to produce something today. I do not feel confident as a painter. Art at school was an elitist experience. Again, if you were one of the children in the class that was able to produce what we were asked, then you were in one group. And if you're not able to do that, you're lumped out of the category of the kids that will succeed.
Oh dear, well that's a good start, isn't it? So now it's time to reveal to Wendy that we will be painting today using a comparator mirror. On here is your image.
Okay.
How do you feel about this?
It's all making me nervous and I'm feeling like I'm out of my depth.
Completely what I expected. I made a few marks here earlier on. Tell me whether you can see why I've made these marks, how they correspond to the reflection in the mirror.
Okay, alright, so I just need to...
To begin with, all we're going to do is take turns and make marks which we feel loosely correspond to what we're seeing in that mirror.
That's better than I thought it would look already, just from doing one stroke.
So as I'm looking at the top, I can see what you've seen.
Okay.
And I can also see why it's not perfect, and I can also see where I might want to add to what you've done, not to correct it, but just to push it slightly more toward what we're painting.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. Yeah. Okay. The first step then is to use the mirror as a tool for empathy, to understand each other's decisions.
There's a dark spot, so do I need a different colour?
This dark section here. At this point, Wendy's still pretty tentative. This first stage is all about the simple confidence to observe something and make a mark in response. But looking into the mirror, I can see that Wendy has got the essential premise, and so her problem is not ability, but confidence. This is why in my turn, I want to show that you can be bold and quite clumsy while still getting a good result. And in a moment, the situation will reverse and Wendy will be able to see why I've done what I've done. Quite like that. See what you think. Got it?
Yeah, it is like a jigsaw puzzle, and when you put a piece of the puzzle down, it makes it easier for me to put another piece down.
Yeah.
But I can see exactly why you've done what you've done.
Great.
Brush, please.
Okay, so what's just happened there is that Wendy has just stepped up a gear. She's mastered the confidence necessary to act, and what opens up in place of that are the fascinating possibilities of making a painting. And so we move on to stage 2 of the comparator mirror learning process.
So what do I do now?
You describe specifically what you see as the problems with it. Are you having problems
colour.
with it? The colour is
Too dark.
Too dark?
And
So to begin this second stage, I want Wendy to dial into the specifics of what's happening. How is paint behaving or misbehaving?
That's too much.
No, that's fine. Just dab it in there. Because where there are clear, bite-sized problems, there are always solutions.
That's too big.
And where there are solutions, there is, well, confidence.
It's this bit.
Which bit here? Once it's down there, you can cut the
Yeah.
edges off things
Yeah.
and kind of prune it down to the shape that you really want.
I want to create this band. Now that I'm looking in the mirror and comparing, I can see that the folds in the fabric have actually got this tone to them. You said to me, be more stupid. Because as soon as you said that, I felt like I could relax a little bit more. Because I'm a silly person, but to me, we don't relate that to serious art, do we? I feel like kind of acclimatizing to the tools that we're using. Every step I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable.
Are you having fun?
Yeah,
Good.
I really am.
Do you want to see if you can put that in? The only way she could get lost at this point is to stop isolating challenges and finding solutions. Does that make sense?
Yep. And the constant referring back to the picture and looking, using the mirror, makes it more obtainable. And that's where the excitement kicks in, when you can obtain it and you think, again, maybe I can.
The only thing the difference between what I'm doing and what you're doing is that I understand the way that paint behaves. Mm-hmm. And paint always wants to misbehave. Like, because this was so dilute, it's gone to sort of like half the colour I thought it would be. Which means when I bring this back over the top, kind of thinking, oh, well, maybe that's how he did it. Maybe this is painted like a kind of wash with thicker layers on the top.
I think it's just amazing to even be able to think that maybe that's how he did do it. Because I'd never break it down.
Yeah.
I'd never think how.
Yeah.
I just think it exists.
And it's untouchable.
Yeah.
Now, this first 10-minute period is pretty intense. A lot happens in the blink of an eye, which is why I've wanted to show all that in some detail. Gives you that feeling of like, I've got this.
Yeah, and I want to do it more. I want to get
totally
into it
do
and do
this.
it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it is these really quick glances backwards and forwards.
So, the comparator mirror has allowed us to share the process of painting, but more importantly, it's given Wendy a kind of safety net that's allowing her to trust her own ability to make painterly decisions. Now, this isn't a fluke. It's something that's happened every single time I've put the comparator mirror in front of a zero confidence beginner and used this 3-step process. So what is the third step? Well, it's seemingly the most daunting, it's the problem of detail. What all my research has indicated is that this is the zone of learning within painting that causes people either to give up or to believe that they have talent. So if somebody dismisses their own creativity simply because they can't draw realistically, it's very easy to say to them that artists have been working with a different rule book for 150 years, so come on, get over it. But if we really examine the allure of realistic painting, we see that an attraction toward it has been with us for a very long time. It seems to be hardwired, in fact. And that's why dismissing these skills, because we struggle to pick them up, can really kick our creative confidence where it hurts.
They will look at somebody else's drawing or painting and compare themselves.
Yeah.
And if they don't feel that theirs is at the same standard, they give up.
And that's based on it looking accurate,
Accurate, always realistic, looking like something.
So one of the pieces of advice I've been given about making YouTube content is that you should always keep things fast, snappy, punchy, because people have short attention spans and they lose interest quickly. Well, I'm not so sure about any of that. In fact, I think if you've got a good enough idea, you guys will pay attention. So I'm going to edit down the next 30 minutes of progress with Wendy as we approach those problems of realistic detail into about 10 minutes. There's going to be no music, no narration, no window dressing. Really, I want you to see in absolute crystal clarity how realistic detail is achieved by building up one decision or brush mark on top of another, just as simply, just as plainly as Wendy is. So I'm going to use a smaller brush. And we are going to block in the big shapes of the shadow. We're not going to think about I'm painting an eye, we're just going to think about what is the big shape. Yeah, and on the palette, this is the colour I think we'll use.
Yep.
See
Okay.
this tiny little point at the bottom?
Yep.
That was an accident. But I think I quite like it. I know it's not absolutely accurate to what's in the photograph, in the painting, but
But the ball of the nose sits perfectly there. I can see that. That's really good.
so yeah, roughly we're using that colour.
Yep. Ooh, I'm having a bit of a moment. It's okay
Well,
though.
Think back to last week. Everything we do can be undone. We could undo it completely and have a second go, or we can adapt it. Nice. So I'm going to lift some of this paint from 2 weeks ago and push it up.
Yeah, for the cheekbone. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, have a look and see if you think that's about right.
Yes.
Better?
Yeah, because it was just coming down too far.
And the middle. As things stand, it's beginning to look like a face. I'll say that much. Somewhere else. Yeah, Wendy, this looks great, this highlight here. So you should start to see that, or we will see at this point, that the face will start to lock together. We've got the underlying skin tone, we've blocked in the shadows for the eyes, under the nose and the mouth, and now we're putting the highlights in.
Yeah.
And if anyone else were to walk in at this point and see you painting this, they would start to say, Wendy, that's so good. How did you do that? I wish I could do that. You're so talented.
But I can see it too, the structures coming to shape,
Yeah.
to form.
And how much of that had to do with talent? And how much of it had to do with just being very calm and just seeing what shape it really was?
Yeah, like you said, being calm and thinking about it and doing it piece by piece and being able to refer so closely and so quickly.
Yeah.
It's that hint of maybe I could do this.
Would you agree we're kind of at the stage now where we can just paint happily together, or you could paint on your own?
Yeah, I think I would feel confident
Yeah.
taking this with me and spending a few hours on it and then coming back to it as well. I feel like with
Yeah.
the mirror in place, it's not as daunting a task to come back to,
Yeah.
because you've got your kind of portable teacher with you,
Being the mirror.
being the mirror, showing you how easy it is to get back into it and where you're going to focus on next.
Yep. Yep. I think you're right.
She looks amazing.
So let's put in the highlights on the eyelids,
Yep.
which I think are actually almost the same colour as the lips.
Yes.
So like that. Because underneath this, I'm going to make an almost identical mark for the pupil.
Okay.
Yeah. So all you need to do is make a similar mark with that kind of colour there.
Okay.
Right?
The more you move the brush around on the surface, the more it will blend in with the colour underneath. It's one of those things where people are like, it's going wrong and it's getting muddy and I don't know why.
Now I understand.
Yeah. So, because you've just picked up the colour that you'd made muddy already, you transplanted, or you transplanted the shadow colour into that pink. You see?
Please.
I'm not going to help you. You can mix up another mix of that light
Okay.
colour for the eyelid.
I don't know what I'm doing.
No, you're not far off. Looks good to me.
Too yellow. Is that? Hang on.
Try a test of it down there. Yeah, maybe a bit more red. There you go.
And that's how it's done.
Just worry about getting the shape at the top of that, like I did here. Don't worry about a messy underside to the brushstroke. There you go. Nice. One mark, confident, bold. You happy with it?
Yes.
Good.
I just had the moment when the whole face comes together. How strange. Okay, I need to look at it again freshly. It's bizarre when that happens. Wow. Because she looks like she's got her eyes closed now, to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I will take my turn and I will put in the darkest dark of the eyes,
Okay.
or one eye, and you can do the other one.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's all I need.
Yep. The paint's so thick you can use it to shape the tip of the brush.
Okay. I
But-
feel nervous.
Yeah. Do what you like, Wendy. We can change everything, we can adjust it, we can...
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Wendy?
Good.
Oh, Wendy, that looks just like a face, just like a real face.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm gonna go like that, I think. Ooh. Now that to me looks a bit off. So just look at the overall shape and adjust it according to what you think.
Okay. Using the techniques that you've taught me, what I've done is I've pulled the darker shadow colour down slightly to where it needs to be to coincide with the mirror, and then I've actually rubbed some of yours out using the white spirit.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. I deliberately tried to be unfinished about what I was doing. And you've gone in and you haven't just put one brush mark in, you've adjusted like modelling clay.
Yes, that's how it felt.
Yeah.
The way I'm looking at it is it's breaking everything down
Yeah.
to the point where it is just shapes and colours,
Yeah.
putting them together layer on layer, and then it becomes what it's supposed to be. I feel empowered. I'm quite astounded by it and how it looks at this point,
Yeah.
kind of behind the magician's curtain
Yeah.
style, but it hasn't lost its magic.
Okay.
Because I felt like, okay, I can take this on now.
Yeah.
I understand what I'm doing. I want to look at the tapestry on the boat,
Okay.
because now that I'm not so terrified of the detail of the face,
Yeah.
I think that would be really interesting to do.
So confidence in this problem-solving process has traditionally always involved mastering the skill of comparison. And that's the reason why the technicalities of lifelike painting have always taken a few years to train to do.
This isn't cheating, this is turning the logic of what we're taught on its head, but actually applying a formula to it that hasn't existed before. That's not something I've had.
But as we've seen, the comparator mirror makes all the difference here, not by cheating these skills, but by shortening the distance between seeing what we want to paint and then painting it confidently.
Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I feel quite enlightened today.
Good. Yeah, let it stew in your brain over the next week.
I
I'll
will.
see you next a week today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
So I'll be showing the completion of my work with Wendy in probably another 1 or 2 episodes. In the end, we move away from the comparator mirror and Wendy paints completely freehand, just as all those years ago back in my first tests at West Buckland School with Scarlett and her Rembrandt, she will end up doing all the work herself.
It's magic and it's untouchable.
Can I suggest something? Mm-hmm. It only gets more fascinating when you know how the magic trick's done.
Really?
Yeah.
Remember, our aim here is not to make painting a little bit easier or for me to demonstrate my technique in numerous complex tutorials, but to totally change the accessibility of drawing and painting.
It's my work. I'm doing it myself. I've got to put the things in the right place. So I want to do more. I want to do more.
That's cool.
Yeah. I just haven't felt that before in doing art ever. So it does. It's in a October. I've been thinking about it. I wanted to take it